Welcome to Clark County Today. I'm your host, David Madore. Our guest is State Representative Paul Harris from the 17th District. Paul is here for just a quick drop-in for an update. So, Paul, let us know what's happening. What's current there? What's happening at the Capitol?
Well, there's a lot going on right now, David. I'd say the biggest thing is right now we're in special session. So we're trying to get the budget still ironed out. After 105 days of knowing that we had a $5.3 billion deficit, we submitted our budget to the Republican House quite a while ago, and the Democrats didn't like it, and so they're back rewriting their budget. And to be honest with you, this should have been done 105 days ago, but now we're under crunch time, and we're going to basically, they're going to try to write a budget that since they have the majority, they're going to write the budget, and then we're going to decide whether or not we like it. So that's where we're at.
And this special session lasts for, what, 30 days? Is it fixed?
It's kind of what we call a rolling session, but it'll go for 30 days at least. I'm a little concerned. We have our next projection of revenue that will come out in June. There's a part of me that wonders if this won't go until June so they can see the next revenue forecast, which could impact the budget again.
You mean this special session go till June?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility of that. I would hope not, but I think you got to understand that there's just really one party that's writing the budget right now, and that would be the House Democrats, and the Senate is still in session. The Republicans on the House side we're basically have a small committee up there, but we're really waiting for the Democrat budget on the House side to come out, which tells me that they're having a hard time within their own caucus coming up with a budget. And they're even having a hard time in their caucus coming up with a smaller budgets. So this will really be interesting, yeah.
It's a different game plan. It's always been increasing more and more and more and more, and now we're having to cut it back. Is that a fair statement?
Well, absolutely, and I think that's part of the problem with the budget is this is going to be a really difficult budget, and I don't care who writes it. Mm-hmm. And to have ownership of that budget, and especially when you're going to have to hit education and the health care and several issues pretty hard to get this thing in balance. Within their own party, I think they've got some people that don't like what they're going to have to do. And I'll defend them to that point in that, yeah, this isn't going to be an easy budget for anybody. We submitted a budget on the House side, on the House Republican side, that we felt was more equitable, definitely treated education better than the last budget that was submitted by the House Democrats. And I was a little surprised they didn't at least take some partisan effort and look at our budget more, but it was pretty much rejected.
Really? They didn't pull out the good stuff from that and say, yeah, this looks good. It's partisanship.
It is.
Right?
It is, and I guess that's the one thing I've learned up there. It's very, very, very political. One of the smaller budgets, which I briefly mentioned, was like the capital budget, which does large capital expenditures throughout the state and basically takes money, and it's bonded money. And
bonded meaning borrowed?
Borrowed, absolutely. And they're having a difficult time even resolving the capital budget. So we on the House side, House Republican side, says, why don't we at least put out a capital budget for the education side so they can build the schools and whatnot, just strictly for education. And we could not come to an agreement on that. So that tells me that they are a ways away from consensus within their own group of making up a budget. So
work to be done.
Absolutely.
I often see that the local school districts will have a bond measure to rebuild a school or to do some kind of construction. There's also bond measures for schools at the state level. How do they relate to the districts?
I believe on that issue that the district has to get really kind of somewhat permission from the state. It just depends on the bond and what they're building and how it influences. So there's a bunch of different nuances going on, but you are correct. Some of it is locally funded, some of it is state funded, so it would depend on the project and what they were doing. So, yeah.
And there's a limit as to how much can be borrowed at the state level.
There is, and that's something interesting that's taking place. I think you'll see a constitutional amendment on the state side that will lower our bonding authority. And right now, the state of Washington is one of the more heavily bonded states. I think the cap right now is 9%. And I think you'll see us lower that to 7% and possibly even down into the 6%, which will be good. It'll actually make the state a stronger state if we have less, like you said, less borrowed money.
So it's 9% of the biennial budget? In other words, they can borrow 9% per year?
I think it's 9%, and I need to find out.
Cumulative?
It might be a cumulative, and I need to find that out. I'm a freshman, but I know we're going to reduce it to 6%, which will, between 6 and 7, which will add some strength to the state. But that's not happening in this biennium. That will be something that we're going to deal with probably next session, but it's been talked about, especially on the Senate side, and they've passed that on the Senate, I believe, and it's going to come over to the House. So we'll deal with that next year.
I expect with so many people being concerned about the debt crisis that permeates every level of government, moving that debt ceiling down sounds like a step in the right direction that would be well received by taxpayers.
And I think it's something sound that they're doing. And I think, honestly, as much as I hate to say it, a lot of the cuts I think that you'll find, they're going to be difficult. But I think some of them were necessary. I think sometimes we get government involved in things, or we want to do things that maybe we really shouldn't be doing. And so there will be some angst and some pain here for a little while, but I really believe that revenues are starting to improve slightly. So we're seeing at least a trend heading back in the right direction, and hopefully we can get everything, going better again.
I see it like we're going on a diet. Our state's been kind of fat city for a long time. And it takes discipline, it takes self-denial, it takes sacrifice, it takes work in order to gain health. We need financial health.
We really do.
I sure hope that things move in the right direction, that they don't just simply cut everything across the board, but there's prioritization that happens there.
Correct.
I'm glad you're there, Paul.
Well, it's been an interesting lesson in learning, and I still am learning. I'm not going to lie to anyone. I don't know a lot. You've asked a couple questions that I need to find out regarding the bonding. I believe it's for the biennium, but I need to find out.
Well, what you bring there is good common sense, and I'm glad that you're there, that you're not a polished politician that knows all the tricks and just the right things to say to get reelected.
No.
Instead, you're there to bring financial health to us, which is great. You had a workers' compensation bill you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we've one of the real strong issues in working with Identity Clark County and some other business associations. One of the leading factors for businesses not to locate in the state of Washington is workers' compensation. We're either the highest or the second highest in the United States for premium costs into workers' compensation. We also have one of the richest benefits that we pay out to our employees. And because of that, it's been very difficult for businesses to come into the state of Washington and to be competitive and to exist. We just wanted to basically reform workers' compensation to be about like 44 to 45 other states in the United States, similar to the state of Oregon, who has recently done this. And it's been interesting. We're hitting a lot of barriers in getting this change. And mostly it's a partisan issue again. The Republicans would like to do this. The business sector would like to do this. And the Democrats, and I believe it's probably mostly the unions, don't like this. And I find it odd because it's really going to help the state, and it really doesn't hurt the employee. One of the things is it's actually gives the employee the option of signing off on his workers' compensation claim. But he can have legal counsel, and he doesn't have to. He just has that option of signing out and basically doing a cash out of your benefit on that particular accident. 44 other states do it. We think it's something that would actually, when we know it, will lower the cost. And if it seems to work in 45 other states, I don't know why it can't work in Washington.
And it gives the employee a chance to go back to work if
they
elect to do so.
If they elect to, yeah, you're right. There's the whole bunch of different parameters within the program. But one of them, you're right, is they can come into work on a very limited basis if they want. Right now they can't. They would get limited benefits and they'd get limited pay.
So it gives them a choice. Right now they don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice. It gives them a lot of options. And once again, they don't have to. They can continue in the same program if they want, where they are. But what's really interesting is to look at the long-term disability aspect of workers' compensation in the state of Washington. The average person stays on workers' compensation on long-term 280 days. In the state of Oregon, it's 60 days. we are by far the highest in claims, and we have actually the highest as far as long-term of settling out of, I got long-term in my head, which it really isn't the right word, but if you're going to have a catastrophic where you're going to stay on for basically, I can't think of the word, Dave, but for forever, you're a settlement, we do more of those than any other state in the United States. Our benefits are just out of line. And the program really is, in essence, is broken. It's going to be broke itself if we don't fix it. And we need to reform it, not only for Washington, but for the employers and for the employees both.
So the burden on employers who are, when it comes to relocating a business to various states, that competition is what they're comparing, well, this state against that state. And it's not the employees that make the decision when it comes to relocating a business to a state, it's the employer.
Absolutely.
And the employer looks at, well, how much financial sense does this make? And if this is, we're the second highest cost in the nation.
Yes. I mean, it's just,
okay. So we don't do so well in that competition.
We don't. And you know, there's just some things that you don't want to be first or second on, and this is one of them. I mean, we really don't.
So we need to make some correction in the right direction.
We do. I guess conversely, though, it's really nice that we don't, you know, that we don't have the income tax. And so there's other things that come into play that would entice businesses here, but a benefit that the employer pays, it's pretty tough to say, hey, I'm going to bring 100 employees here, but I know it's going to cost me a whole bunch more money. Mm-hmm. Of course, the employees are going to love to be here because they don't have an income tax. So we just got a couple things we got to tweak, and I think we have a great environment here. So
sure.
Yeah.
But workers' compensation insurance was not intended to replace an income tax. That's still a different.
No, it's not. So yeah. I guess what I'm saying is on the income tax side, it's an enticing state. Mm-hmm. It's tough for the employer to say, yeah, I want to come here when it's going to cost the employer money. So we need to fix that.
Right, and this, I look at the argument for giving lots and lots of benefits and many different things where the government can be very compassionate. Well, it's easy to, I call it compassion when it comes out of my pocket. When we personally make a sacrifice, that's compassion. When if I take money out of your pocket and give it to somebody else, that's no longer compassion because it's not mine to take.
Sure.
So the role of government is really, I think, compassion is not, it doesn't replace the compassion of personal responsibility, of nonprofit organizations, and government is really stepping into a realm where it can't afford to do that.
And what's interesting, and one other issue on workers' compensation is we're talking about, the state controls workers' compensation in our state, so it administers the program. It is the program. In the state of Oregon, they have some privatization where Safeco is involved and other companies. And once again, if we get competition involved, the price of everything will come down again. But right now, the state is running the program, it is the program, and as long as we just have one guy doing it, we're not going to have competition. It's just not going to work.
Competition is a good thing. I'm in business, and we have competitors, and you know what? Competitors make us more profitable because it makes us smarter. It helps us to keep our costs down, improve our products, because guess what? If we don't do a good job, somebody else is going to take that business, and the customer will select a better choice, which is not us. So competition, government doesn't do very well as a monopoly.
No.
But when you offer alternative choices, hey, things move in the right direction. As taxpayers, if there's multiple choices, things become more practical, more efficient, more fiscally responsible, mm-hmm. all of those good things. So I hope that you can prevail.
Well, we're trying.
In bringing this back into balance.
We're trying.